The Xbox Series X and S have sold more Xboxes during this generation than any other generation of Xbox, at least up to this point, and Stalker 2 may be getting a delay. Welcome back to another video, guys. You enjoy daily content, make sure to hit that subscribe button. So if you remember, before the Xbox Series X and S launched, we knew that all of the first party games are going to be available on PC alongside the Xbox console, and there was going to be Game Pass for PC, there was going to be Play Anywhere, all that type of stuff. And there were a lot of naysayers out there pretty much saying that that would cannibalize the console sales. Nobody would want to buy an Xbox console anymore, and pretty much the console for the Xbox division would just be dead. And eventually it would just be only a streaming / PC department when it comes to Xbox. And I was definitely somebody out there who totally disagreed with this, in the sense that I was thinking that people buy consoles for certain reasons, and it doesn't matter whether there are exclusive games or not. People are still going to be going out and buying the console, and we are clearly seeing that with the Xbox Series X and S. They are demonstrating that you do not need to lock games to a box in order for it to be successful. That's an old way of the video game industry. The industry is definitely changing. We're seeing that with streaming, we're seeing that with services, and we're seeing what Xbox is doing by creating that Xbox ecosystem and making exclusivity for the ecosystem rather than the box. Now, Phil Spencer had an interview with the New York Times. It was a 30-minute interview or so. You could actually listen to it on Spotify or other podcasts, streaming, whatever softwares out there. But he touched on the sales of the Xbox Series X and S amongst a bunch of other things, such as like harassment, what's going on in China in the sense of trying to like banning teenagers from playing games or whatever they're doing. I'm not 100% sure. And just the overall industry itself and freedom of speech on the platform, and how the Xbox isn't a freedom of speech platform, because obviously you can get banned, and they're keeping it as a platform for the entertainment, for the art, and it's not a place where you go and you just start random like political discussions and stuff. So it's kind of interesting in that sense, where you get kind of more of an insight of the Xbox, where their vision is in terms of a platform in total. But he also talked about the sales and the pandemic and everything that has helped actually Xbox right now. And the question is, how do you think about it when it was starting to develop in terms of what it meant for your business? And that question is referring to earlier questions about the pandemic. And Phil Spencer's response is, well, for me, first started with my teams, the teams here at Xbox, and how those teams, keeping our team safe, how we were going to get our work done. I will say the swell in usage in gaming was a surprise to us. Back in what would have been March, April of 2020, we sold out of consoles, which we never do in April and May, because you had this sudden swell of usage. Our networks were tapped as people were coming on, and the team worked hard to fulfill that demand. And in some ways, we're still trying to do this. When you think about trying to get an Xbox or a new PlayStation right now in the market, they're really hard to find. And it's not because supply is smaller than it's ever been. Supply is actually as big as it's ever been. It's that demand is exceeding the supply for all of us. At this point, we've sold more of this generation of Xboxes, which is Xbox Series X and S, than we had any previous version of Xboxes. So it's our job to get the supply there to meet that demand. So there's a couple of interesting things in what he says there. I mean, firstly, when we hear about the shortage of consoles, we know that there are a bunch of things that are affecting this. Obviously, the pandemic has a huge effect. The chip shortages, the overall logistics and supply chain, everything getting bogged down because of what is going on is affecting your ability to go out and buy an Xbox Series XS or a PlayStation 5. But what is interesting and what he mentions here is that the demand is higher than it's ever been. And I think, let's say we didn't have a global pandemic, let's say everything was normal the last 2 years, I still honestly believe that the demand for the PS5 and the Xbox Series X and S would be higher than ever, and it would still be relatively hard to get one of these consoles, but probably not to the same degree that it is. You would probably have to wait like a couple of weeks before shipments and stuff like that. Maybe not, but that's just the way I'm kind of seeing it, because they are selling out more than they've ever sold out. Even with all of these external factors that are, it's making it hard to meet that demand. But the demand, they sold more in terms of Xbox than any other previous generation. So they're still doing very, very well. And this also really shows that all of those narratives that like having games not locked to a box are going to ruin the box were obviously completely false, and we keep seeing that as we go through this generation. But yeah, I'll have the link to this interview in the description below. You can read it and listen to it and whatever. There's like, it's like 34 minutes and they go over a bunch of random stuff. Not all of it is like directly, I guess, related to Xbox and to video games per se. It has a lot to do with like politics and what is going on in the world and how Xbox is dealing with harassment and stuff like that. We're jumping over here to Stalker 2. As we know, Stalker 2 is a timed exclusive for Xbox, supposed to be releasing on April 28th into Xbox Game Pass, and you're gonna be able to jump in and play day one. It's a highly anticipated game, at least for the people that know about it, and it looks absolutely amazing from what we've seen so far with the trailers of this game graphically and just the world and the gunplay. There's been a decent amount of controversy, however, with this game, with the NFT and that being pulled back, and it looks like there may be a little bit more when it comes to the actual release of this game, as this game, there's a rumor going around that it could be delayed into the fall. Now, this site here was in Russian. I translated it to English, so it may not be exactly one-to-one as to what it is saying, but here's what it says. Ukrainian blogger Old Boy, who previously published information about the local gaming industry, has released a new video. And in that video, he says that the game is supposed to be released on April 28th, 2022, but it was allegedly postponed to the fall, and the company may announce this in the next gameplay demonstration. Old Boy also says in this video that they deliberately delayed this information about the transfer in order to collect as many pre-orders as possible, which who knows if that's true or not. And the version of the game for the PlayStation 5, according to Old Boy, should be expected either at the very end of this year or at the beginning of 2023. So Stalker 2, I'm really excited for this game, and if it gets delayed, it will be somewhat disappointing. But again, I'm always okay with delays if that just means that the game is going to come out in a great form, polished, all that type of stuff. But when we take a look at the games coming out at the beginning of 2022, January has been great. I mean, January is pretty stacked. If you look at the games coming out, you have Nobody Saves the World on January 18th, Rainbow Six Extraction on the 20th, Windjammers 2. I'm actually really excited to try that out as well on the 20th. Pokemon Legends Arceus or Arceus, whatever, on January 28th. So there's so many games in January and so many games in February. We go down this list, like you have Horizon Forbidden West, we have Elden Ring, Grid Legends, King of Fighters 15. Like if you're a huge fighting game fan, you're going to be really excited for that. Dynasty Warriors 9, Crossfire X, Sifu. Like there's so much stuff coming out in January and February. March as well, another great month. You got Triangle Strategy, and a game that I'm probably most excited for out of all of these games coming out in March, Tunic. There's also Stranger of Paradise, Final Fantasy Origins, Tiny Tina's Wonderland. And then we move down to April, and in April there's literally nothing coming out, at least that we know of right now. Stalker 2 was like the big release for April, and if it got delayed, it would leave a huge gap in that month, especially for Xbox and Xbox Game Pass, because I feel like they were banking on this dead time of year in April when there's not much coming out to draw more people into Xbox Game Pass. Like if there's nothing coming out on PlayStation, nothing coming out on the Switch, and then you have Stalker 2 releasing Game Pass day one, you'll probably push a ton of subscriptions to the service. So if that gets delayed to the fall, I think that will be a relatively big blow to Xbox's overall marketing plan, and they may have to go out and try to secure some other great Game Pass releases for that month. And then even when you go down here to May, I mean, there's Forspoken and Vampire the Masquerade Swan Song, but there's still not like a huge list of games like we have in the other months. So in that sense, this could be somewhat detrimental to Xbox's plan, but we will wait and see what they pull out of their magic bag or whatever, because like they did last year with Outriders, with MLB The Show, just randomly getting these huge Game Pass releases early in the year, I feel like we're going to see a lot of that again in 2022. And for me personally, if these games get delayed, I have so much in my backlog. I really don't care. There's so many games on Game Pass. There's so many games that I still haven't played yet that I bought on like Black Friday. So for me personally, the delay is almost sort of a good thing, where I can dive more into my backlog. But I think from like a marketing perspective, because April is so dead in terms of releases, Xbox is going to be disappointed if it gets delayed to the fall. Anyways, guys, that's it for me. Let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Are you surprised that the Series X has sold more than any other Xbox generation at this point in its life cycle? And do you think Stalker 2 is really going to get delayed? And you think that will have a hit on Xbox's plans for the spring? If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button. You're new here, you like what you saw throughout this video, I would appreciate you hitting that subscribe button. Help this channel grow, help grow this community. Thank you again for watching. Thank you for your support, and I'll catch you in the next video.
Bye.